This is the EGC 20k Age of Empires 4 tournament. The quarterfinals are on, the last 8 generals battling it out. Let's rejoin the war effort! So, it's come down to this, has it? My name's Anuki, last of my lineage, and let's introduce the players. Settling in the north with a vengeance, they learned everything they know from totally accurate battle simulator. It's Vortix, leading France. Settling in the south, they've got a heart of red. I heard they played Dark Souls, fully prepared to die. It's Kasva, leading the United Nation of southern France. The landscape is formed to resemble dry Arabia. We are on match 3 between the two generals in command today. Vortix has won 2, and a third win would mean they go through to the semi-finals. So Kasva is back to a wall here. They can't give no quarter, not even a nickel or a dime or great, perhaps even fantastic pound sterling. So perhaps this is why France is out. Now, I don't agree with this assessment, but many commanders consider France a free win with a predetermined strategy. Get School of Cavalry, train knights 20% faster, attack with knight, job done. But we've seen many a France fall, and their downfall can be attributed to how predictable that is. The counters exist all around, and we've witnessed them here on Ironcast. But here's the thing to consider. Many commanders are going into this blind. Last week's round of 16, none of the other players had the opportunity to observe other competitors because they were busy playing. None of them had the chance to see the failures and successes. So everyone is playing in their own box, reiterating the same thing, an echo chamber of France free win. There's been a week since the round of 16. The players might have had a chance to try and digest the other matches that happened, check out the competition. Now that we're in the quarterfinals, I feel there has been a noticeable evolution of responses to France, but not an evolution of playing France. It's still the same French strategy, which means we could be in for an old-fashioned French joust where knights are pumped out, charge each other for bonus damage, and then back off. Now, usually I'd just comment on what's happening or what is going to happen or what the players are thinking, but we've witnessed so much France that I'm just gonna slip off the old rails a bit and talk as a strategy analyst. Things that could be done in relation to what is being done. So, for example, we know in a France versus France matchup, both players want to harass each other's gold. You need a lot of gold for knights, so the less enemy villagers working on gold, the better it is for you. Many players have gone the route of placing a tower next to their gold so villagers can hop in, but this means you still aren't mining. An outpost can cost 100 wood, but if you were to spend 110 wood, you could put a wooden wall around your whole mining operation at 25 extra wood for a gate. Knights cannot get to you. For an extra 10 wood or 35 wood. This might force the opposing French player to get archers, because you would assume, oh well, my archers can easily fire over the wall and kill those villagers. But for starters, the gate means the villagers can still run away. But secondly, and this is the most important one, if one player decides to get archers with their knights, and the other player only has knights, you have the perfect unit counter. Knights shred archers. And you're fighting on home turf. That wooden mining operation is in your base. Those archers have had to cross the land to get there, and they're not going to be able to run away from knights. Kasva already scouting out the gold right at the back of the map. They now know where to strike. If the wooden wall plan was enacted, Vortix could go harass the enemy without having to worry about their gold workers. But that still does leave other areas semi-vulnerable. The gold is just usually the most vulnerable asset that requires extra attention to protect. Food you can collect right next to the town center, and wood is typically close by, but you don't need wood for knights, except for making more stables. And it's cutting off knight production, which is the aim of the game, right until the very end. Knight on its way to cause some trouble. Vortix will spot it with their scout and issue the order to their own knight to intercept. Convenient stealth forest here. A great place to plot and scheme for great evil. Yes. Most of the stealth forests, though, are out of the way on this particular generation of Dry Arabia. But that one, I could see good cause for a tower there. Just, well, yes, here's what I mean. Kasva being a smarty pants, hooking the very edge, slipping right by the guards. Their vision range is only smalls. Off they go in the distance. Vortix is going to find this disturbing. An inquiry will be made, I assure you. Kasva couldn't see what was going on either. They had no idea the knights just ran away. They have returned to defend the kingdom. And this is all circumstantial, but unfortunately, circumstances are always going to be a part of a game like this. You can only minimize circumstances by enforcing precautions. Stick that in your book, Sun Tzu. And on top of that, going over precautious can leave you low on resources and therefore vulnerable. Vortix microed the villagers hard there. If you notice, they didn't retreat everyone. They juggled aggro around. They did lose a villager, but otherwise, maintained a high villager to gold ratio and a low villager to death ratio. Kasva is not giving up, though. Lay will score another kill, it looks like. Oh, no, Mary makes it out of there. Hooray for Mary. She can now return to work with only a few severely major injuries that require immediate treatment. Good for Mary. I'm amazed Vortix is going to build a mill on the deer here. It's very exposed. Maybe like Baldric, though, they have a cunning plan. Excuse me if I overthink it. Perhaps it's a decoy, a dummy, a bait. It's so obviously a target. But what if Vortix was using it to control their losses, was hopefully inflicting more damage on enemy knights? I think it's most likely that deer are just delicious. Vortix wants a new source of food and will aim to protect it with outposts. One of Vortix's knights is way out of their league, perhaps left on an attack order. They'll return to the base. It's pretty much happy hour at the village of Kasva. I wonder, though, if there's an attack about to come. 3 knights chasing one of Kasva's, surely being led into a trap. Vision is your friend or your enemy. Kasva, knowing the location of these knights, puts them in a position to meet them in greater numbers. Vortix will not battle that. Regrouping with one of their knights from earlier, but still low on the knight numbers. I was going to mention this earlier in regards to Vortix's deer mill, and I don't vouch for this like I do the mining camp, but if you did want to wall off 8 farms on a mill, it'd only cost 140 wood. And you can add a gate on that too. That's 7 spearmen's worth of wood, and I think a wall like this has more value than 7 spears. But the reason why I don't vouch for it is because firstly, you're not getting farms this early on. You're getting something like deers. And secondly, being typically you want to make use of the mills that you have. So a mill on the deers is going to be hard to wall off because you can't build on the animals. And it gets very, very awkward and complicated and non-ideal. And there's just so many kinds of troubles related to that. A clash of clans is about to happen. Kasva with the advantage again. And I think this brings me to the next stage of strategic analysis. So we've covered protecting your villagers, but now in this France v France matchup, I think it's time to talk about the units. Because often all we see is royal knights, but the 7 other civilizations don't have royal knights, so how do they win against France? Well, that comes down to 2 things. Firstly, spearmen is obviously one of them. That is the unit known to be the hard counter to heavy cavalry, or cavalry in general. But it's always hard to get spearmen on knight contact. Less so, though, when playing defensively, which brings us to the next point. Having units is good, but it's how you use them in the overall strategy. One of the common wins against France is to get to the castle age as fast as you can because it gives you access to the men-at-arms and crossbows. Men-at-arms is useful if France is bringing archers, but they're only going to bring in archers if spearmen are present, which is the appropriate response. But forcing France to have to build a second unit type, that's progress. Then those archers have to try and attack your village. They're slower to cross the map, they are vulnerable to knights that you are likely already building, and your spearmen should be holding hands with villagers inside the village that don't have a wooden wall around them, so they're not really exposing themselves to archer fire. Archers are just going to have a hard time. So to summarize, the tools are there to deal with nothing but knights in the feudal age. Tools for everyone. Nothing I have mentioned is civilization specific. I carefully avoided that conundrum. What we have here though, between Kasva and Vortix, is a mirrored strategy. Both are doing the same thing, it just comes down to who can do it better. More hustle and tussle. The knights scrim each other, causing a bit of a ruckus in Vortix's forest. And it's going to come down to who has the better micro, who can keep up with moving their villagers and knights to maximize kills, minimize losses. And some matches are decided just like that. Some matches go on for long enough, though, that an X factor is introduced. One player will do something else, such as going to the castle age, getting the tech advantage. Sometimes that's even their downfall, as sinking resources into Castle Age leaves them with fewer knights to defend with. At this moment in time, it looks like Kasva is gaining the slight edge. They've been on the offense more. Vortix has marshaled together 9 knights for their biggest attack yet, perhaps, and Kasva is trying to attack from multiple angles to divide Vortix's attention. They have been working on the construction of a new wooden wall, but I'm wondering if this is secure as Vortix thinks, because if we move this way, this isn't one of those large forests. That's a gap. That's what it looks like to me. This is gonna even further confuse Vortix. They've already been duped once by Vision before, and this could be absolutely devastating, but Vortix is making an attack of their own, and it looks like it's going fairly well. Let's tune back into the blue village in the north and see the surprise. Vortix does sound the bell quick enough. Many lives saved by that ringing. Some of the farmers remain outside. They just want to be farming. Leave me alone. Meanwhile, in the southern red village, Kasva is trying to construct a second tower, so you know what? That's 200 wood to try and stop knights from raiding their natural gold vein. We're still only on knights, and I just want to cry wooden walls. Vortix on 37 villagers to Kasva's 36 villagers. Most of Kasva's villagers are in hiding too. Vortix certainly closed some gap here. But will they have figured out there's a hole in the wall? That bloody UK TV show stolen from Japanese TV. And the UK always has this habit of stealing other people's game shows and then ruining them by sticking 5 minutes of interviewing the fucking contestants about their menial lives. The moral of the story is don't have holes in your walls, because not all people coming through them will be the general population. Some of them might be knights executing medieval blitzkrieg on your real estate. Kasva is going for another run. The hole is not fixed. And as we arrive 15 minutes into the match, the raids are going to get bigger, more punishing, and exact heavier loads of mental drain. The berry pickers are none the wiser, but you don't need to be wise to pick berries. Kasva gets a critical hit with the charge. Not many bodies on the ground just yet, but the damage is there. The villagers suffering on their leisurely stroll back to the town center. The woodcutters don't have any private accommodation. This is huge for Kasva. The defense garrison arrives. Vortix rides back with their knights, but Kasva doesn't need to fight. They've got their key target. What a blow! If there's any argument about how important walls are, this is the clip. Not shutting down that angle of attack led to a slaughter. And another way to look at it, though, is if Vortix didn't build that wall, they would have been more alert. They would have stood ready for the possibility of an attack from the north, but seeing the wall there, they thought, I'm probably safe. I don't need to pay attention to the north side of my village. They cannot come from that angle anymore. Oh, how wrong they were. There's barracks unusually positioned with a few spearmen outside, but I think it's a little too late to really make a difference. Kasva gonna claim the boar. So what do I mean by too late to make a difference? A single barracks is gonna have to spend a long time producing spears to get them to a point where they have some impact. Spearmen primarily want to defend, and defending right now means Kasva is growing large and in charge. Kasva bringing over their knights to try and help protect their lands, but where does Vortix want to strike? Kasva regroups their knights and will engage from multiple angles. It was a good surround and spread of damage, which brings me to another strategic analysis as this chase goes on. Use of formations. For an RTS game, I have not seen much use of formations. You've basically got three: box, line, and spread. We've seen this occasionally, but even now there are commanders boxing up into mangonel fire. Line formation is rarely brought out, what I think is the most useful out of the bunch. The line formation allows you to get a quicker surround on the enemy if they're melee. Great if you have more units. For archers, it can get them into attack range faster, collectively speaking, and I think line formation will be used more in the future. Kasva gonna take out this outpost and possibly the barracks. One of the reasons I think that formations aren't used at the moment is that the effects of using formations is not easily quantifiable. This is known as the McNamara fallacy, where objective data is used over other sources because we just like quantifiable results, like this is good, that is bad. So for example, we know that spearmen do X damage, knights have X health, so it takes 3 spearmen to kill a knight. That's quantifiable. We can use that as an easy metric to visualize, but it's harder to find the tipping point of spearmen in a line formation against knights and see whether line formation wins where a box formation would not, let alone use that data in a live game. Is this a base trade? I've not seen this before. Nobody gets to have a simple farm life. I get that when Behind France wants to try and raid, but Vortix will be the one to suffer here. Kasva targets the military compounds. Vortix raises the white flag. Northern France has been defeated. Congratulations to Kasva. They have claimed their first victory in this best of 5, which means we're going to round 4, the aquatic zone, Boulder Bay. Stay tuned to find out what the civilization picks are going to be, and I forgot to mention, do check out the video description or Twitch page. Come along to the Ironcast Discord if you want to chat or get involved in some of the productions. I need brave, courageous commanders. Anyway, I'm gonna go drown myself in a bucket of milkshake so I can wake myself up ready to cast the next game. My name's Anuki. See you soon.